I'm using a new mic today. A few months ago in February, I got into a very heated argument. It was a Sunday night and I was lamenting about how much I enjoyed the Grammys this year with all the dedication to performance and culture and politics, my three favorite things. And in my happiest moment, I decided to do the one thing that a happy person should never do, which is open my phone and go on social media. Suddenly, my eyes were assaulted with comments and posts about how everybody at the Grammys was rich and hypocritical and superficial and out of touch, and how we should be boycotting the entire event and da 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 da. And I was like, hold on. Rich? Now I can't lie. So let me be clear. It is certainly true that there are often a few billionaires that are in attendance at these major award events. And I won't even try to offer a justification for how many of these people amass their wealth. I love the music, Jay, but we're looking at you. But when it comes to our perception of touring artists and the money they make and how they got it, I think there's a lot more nuance to the conversation. Like, if we're gonna pocket watch, then we might as well be somewhat accurate. I want you guys to all meet my friend, Jeff Farina. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff Farina is a full-time Finnish acid folk artist at Generic Records, and she's done pretty well for herself as music goes. Jeff Farina has just announced her first international tour, where she will be visiting 20 venues across 8 countries. Good for her. Now I want you to ask yourself, is Jeff Farina rich? Does she make an absurd amount of money? She does music full-time. She has the attention of millions of people, and she even has a team of people dedicated to working for her. But how does that translate to actual revenue in the current music ecosystem? We're going to analyze Jeff Farina's career as a musician in the form of a money in, money out chart. On the money in side, we have her 3 biggest revenue streams: streaming, merch sales, and touring. Here, I'm going to ignore most of the drains to income just so we can really view how much money or value that artists are truly generating with their music. On the money outside are her biggest income drains: the label, the team, and touring. It'll make more sense when I explain. But first, let's talk about the money that Jeff Farina is making. If you're around my age, it's hard to imagine a time where streaming numbers were not important to music. And if you're a K-pop stan like my roommate, then you think it's your personal job to remind everybody else about how important streaming numbers are to music. Since Spotify began to displace radio as the most commercially significant space in music, we've seen many artists reach audiences in numbers that would have previously been unheard of. As of this week, the song Blinding Lights by The Weeknd has reached 5.4 billion total streams on Spotify, clocking in billions more on other platforms as well. So surely numbers like that would translate to a disgusting amount of wealth. Right? Well, for The Weeknd, kind of. See, the world of music streaming royalties is extremely convoluted and complicated, and certainly couldn't be explained in a video that is however many minutes this video is long. But just for the sake of the case study, we're gonna dumb it down and try anyway. Streaming services make money off of ad revenue and off of subscription fees. That money is collected monthly, and the DSP, or digital service provider, will pocket 30 to 40% of the revenue and place the rest in a payable pool to be distributed amongst rights holders. Notice that I said rights holders and not artists. The money that does reach artists like our Jeff Farina must first go through their labels or distributors, who will often take a hefty chunk, somewhere from 65 to 80% of that money before the artist ever sees it. But again, we will address that later. The rates for that royalty money that's offered by streaming services is notoriously low when you compare it to physical sales. Well, technically there is no per stream rate. Streaming artists are awarded a share of money that comes out of that payable pool that we were just talking about. This will often express itself in the form of 0.03 of a cent on the low end, like Spotify, to 0.15 of a cent on the high end, like a Tidal or something. But the money that you can earn as an artist is ultimately capped by the amount of money that is in that payable pool. So, with all these caveats, industry analysts have suggested that Blinding Lights has made about $80 million off of streaming across all platforms. That is a lot of money, but put it in perspective. $80 million for a record that has exceeded 10 billion streams across DSPs means Blinding Lights is generating about $8,000 for every million streams it reaches. And that's before any other parties, like the label, the team, or other rights holders have taken their cut. Moving back to our example, let's say that Jeff Farina has had a pretty successful year in streaming and has clocked in about 700 million streams across her discography. Using Blinding Lights as a benchmark, this would translate to her generating about $5.6 million in annual income. Add it to the tally. For most of the 20th century, artists went on tour so that they could sell more records. But today, it's quite the opposite. In wake of the consequences of music piracy and streaming as the new industry standard, touring has become one of the most lucrative endeavors for signed artists. Jeff Farina has had some experience touring and does best when she books venues around 1,000 to 3,000 people in capacity, so clubs and theaters. For her international tour, let's suppose that all the venues that she plays in cap at about 2,000 people, and like artists of her caliber, think James Blake, Faye Webster, Chance the Rapper, she sells her tickets anywhere from $60 to $120 if we're taking resellers out of the equation, which is a tall order. For the sake of our experiment, we will also assume that every ticket that she sells is $80, and every single room she absolutely sells out all 2,000 people, which of course is literally never the case. $80 times 2,000 people times 20 shows is a gross revenue of $3.2 million. We'll add that to her money in as well. For now. People often assume that artist merchandise is like that $20 that you find in your Venmo account on a Thursday afternoon. A small incidental amount of money that'll go towards your lunch, but probably nothing meaningful. But with the right amount of dedication and drive in your fan base, artist merch can prove to be a lot more lucrative than many fans would think. According to @Venue, an inventory management and point-of-sale platform used across more than 1.5 million different events worldwide, concertgoers are buying artist merchandise now more than ever. As of 2025, 20 to 23% of fans were buying merchandise in concerts, at an astounding rate of $64 per head. But this is a number that includes stadium and arena tours, the caliber that Jeff Farina just hasn't yet reached in her career of Finnish acid folk ballads. I don't remember what I said. So we're going to tailor her numbers just slightly to better represent an artist that's doing a tour of theater and club shows. We'll assume that 18% of Jeff Farina's fans buy her merch every night at a rate between $40 to $50 per head. This means that we'll also assume that Jeff Farina grosses $18,000 in merch per show, or $360,000 total dollars of tour merchandise in revenue that year. Of course, we're also going to have to include the people that buy merch online, but there's not really a good way to calculate that figure with all the moving variables. Who is actually buying merch, where they live, how much they're spending, shipping fees, etc., etc. So to be fair, we're gonna slap on an extra $2,000 to the annual gross and call it a day. I promise at the end of this it won't be that substantial of a difference. So with a whopping total of $9.36 million in gross revenue per year, you wouldn't be wrong to assume that Jeff Farina is doing pretty well for herself. But the question in music has never been how much money can an artist generate. It's how much money will she get to keep. Oh, I'm hurt! Oh! For a long time in music, a major label deal was the sign of a successful artist. With the marketing, administrative, and financial support of a record company behind them, many artists have been able to reach audiences and make connections that they would have never dreamt of as an independent. But if you pay attention, you'll find that many artists who have years of experience under a major are very quickly disillusioned with the actual terms of their contract they're tied into.
When I signed my first deal, I signed the most fucked up deal in the world.
Major labels primarily control recorded music. In bad situations, like that of an early Paramore, artists can get sucked into what's known as a 360 deal, where a label will take a cut of all of their streams of revenue. But luckily for Jeff Farina, she liked this video and subscribed to my channel, so this didn't happen to her. Yay. Please subscribe. Unluckily for her, her standard contract at Generic Records has 3 quite common stipulations. Number 1, she's on a royalty rate of, let's say, around 17% of recorded music revenue. This means that roughly 17% of every dollar that Jeff Farina's music generates is ultimately attributable to her. Number 2, for her newest album titled Like and Subscribe, she was given an advance of $600,000 to cover recording costs, marketing, and rollout. All of this money must be recouped, or paid back to the label, before she can ever see any percentage of her royalty money. Number 3, the 17% of the royalty money that she does see is not applied to the full $5.6 million number that we saw before. It's only applied to a new revenue pool after everything else has already been deducted. So taking this all into account, subtracting her advance, applying her royalty rate, carrying the one, doing a little long division, Jeff Arena will see a whopping total of $850,000 of that streaming revenue. This means that over $4 million of the money that was generated by Jeff Arena's music is lost to administration, distribution, marketing, or a myriad of other small costs.
Oh, I'm hurt! Oh!
On top of having a label to appease and to pay, artists also have a personal team that basically keeps their career afloat. In Jeff Arena's case, this includes a manager who oversees her day-to-day, a business manager who's in charge of her money and where it goes, an agent who books her gigs and festivals, and a lawyer who makes sure that she doesn't sign any papers that will imprison her for millions of years. This kind of operation is absolutely not cheap. Typically, a personal manager will take 15 to 20% of an artist's gross earnings, a business manager will take 5% of the gross, a booking agent will take 10% of live performances and touring revenue, and an entertainment lawyer will see 5% of deals that they negotiate or will be paid on a rate of around $300 to $1,000 an hour. Notice again that for those figures, I said the artist's gross revenue. This means to do our calculation, we'll keep most of the big numbers in our money inside consistent, except for the streaming number. Since that $5.6 million wasn't all attributable to Jeff Arena in the first place, we'll use the money that she actually takes home, $850,000. Our magic number thus far has been 18%, so let's say that that's what Jeff Arena's manager is taking. This means that for the year, she owes her manager $829,800, her business manager $230,500, her agent $320,000, and her lawyer will assign a flat annual figure, let's say $60,000. Overall, this will come out to $1.4 million more dollars deducted from our total. But don't worry, the pain is almost over.
Oh, I'm hurt! Oh!
To me, touring is one of the most fascinating aspects of music because there are so many moving parts. And while I know a few minutes ago I did explain to you how touring is one of the most lucrative parts of an artist's career, I did conveniently leave out how expensive it is to go on tour in the first place. Every night that Jeff Arena gets on stage, she has to bear the cost of transportation, hotels, production equipment, crew members, insurance, venue staff, local labor, merch companies, promoters, and a million other tiny incidental costs that seriously add up over time. You, the viewer, have a 90-minute experience at one show for one day of the year. What you don't see is the entire miniature economy that has to be built around that experience for you to have it in the first place. I would bore you and honestly ruin my CTR if I went through and estimated each individual expense of touring. So for the sake of the video, we will consult Donald Passman's industry standard book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business. Within it, he states that on a healthy and successful tour, the artist retains 65 to 70% of gross ticket revenue after paying venues and promoters. After subtracting the rest of the costs that I mentioned, we're going to be generous and assume that Jeff Arena gets to take home 45% of her gross tour revenue for that year, which comes out to about $1.6 million. Okay, the verdict is in. Our beloved artist Jeff Arena was able to generate $9.36 million off of the back of her name in music. Her total take home for that year was a whopping, astounding
$1,729,700.
Now, that is obviously still an enormous amount of money for the average person. But if you'll entertain me in my numbers for just a little bit longer, that means that Jeff Arena is within the top 0.05 of all musicians ever, crossing a line about 12,000 artists globally have ever achieved, and her take home is less than 25% of the revenue that her name and her music generates. Now, my conclusion here is not that artists at the Grammys don't make money. Obviously, many artists have a lot of money. But, I'm just saying, a lot of the people in that room have already made a plethora of other people rich before they ever got to see that money. And maybe our rebellious and revolutionary energy could better be directed in other places. I hate you, Peter Thiel. If you've made it here, thank you so much for watching. There was a lot of information in this video, but it was also surprisingly incomprehensive if you include the fact that I ignored publishing, tour contracts, sync licensing, brand deals, social media income, festivals, taxes, blah 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 blah. Certainly far too much for this video to handle. But I love to talk about music, and if you'd love to see me talk more about music, then like, subscribe, comment even. And I'll see you in the next one. Tonight I got really hungry before I recorded this, so I put in an Uber Eats order for a burger at BurgerFi, and it was buy one get one free, and they were gonna deliver my order, and then it got canceled. And the BurgerFi was only like 5 minutes away from me, so I guess that was like lazy of me anyways. Sue me. And I put in the order, and they cancel it, and then I go to the BurgerFi, and I'm like, hey, like, do you guys have my food? And they're like, oh, sorry, we're out of meat. But don't worry, our next shipment is coming in next Thursday.